now we turn to one of the top GOP contenders, not in Iowa yesterday. Instead, Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal headlined a massive prayer rally called The Response in Baton Rouge.
We can't just elect a candidate and fix what ails our country. We can't just pass a law and fix what ails our country. We need a spiritual revival to fix what ails our country. It is like God has given us the book of life. He doesn't let us see the pages for today and tomorrow. He doesn't promise us everything will go the way you want. But he does let you see the last page in the book of life. And on the last page, our God wins.
And Governor Jindal joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Governor Jindal. Let me begin with that rally yesterday. I know you said it was a religious event, not a political event, but is it the job of a president to lead a spiritual revival? And I was struck by that final line, our God wins. How do you think that lands in a country of 320 million people of many different kinds of spirituality, many different kinds of faith, many who believe in no God at all?
George, first of all, thank you for having me. You know, it is a time-honored tradition going back to our nation's founding for our presidents, for our leaders to turn to God for guidance, for wisdom. George Washington did it. Abraham Lincoln did it. Harry Truman did it. So absolutely, I think this idea of praying to God for wisdom and guidance is as old as our country. Secondly, look, I think we are a diverse country. Obviously, a majority of our people are Christians, but we don't discriminate against anybody. And that's one of the great things about America. We believe in religious liberty. Yesterday was an amazing, amazing event. Thousands of people came together to worship and pray across racial lines, across political lines. I thought it was a great, great event. I hope you'll see more of these across the country.
I'm sure we will. You missed that big event, though, in Iowa yesterday. As John Carl said, it was a pretty packed stage. And I want to ask you about that. You know, you have these other social conservatives like you, Ted Cruz, Rick Santorum, Mike Huckabee, Ben Carson. They were all there yesterday. Other governors like Scott Walker and Chris Christie. How can you possibly stand out in a field like that, such a packed field?
Well, George, if I do decide to run, it's something I'm seriously looking at, I'm praying and thinking about. If I do decide to run, I think this country, I think our nation needs leaders who have the courage to speak the truth to us. And unfortunately, we don't have that right now. I'll give you an example. Earlier this week, I gave a speech in London where I talked about the threats of radical Islamic terrorism. I know it made a lot of people upset, but we need leaders to tell us the truth. For example, people coming to our country need to integrate, need to assimilate. So I think people are looking for leaders that are willing to take on the big challenges. One of the biggest challenges facing us, I think, is the current administration's attempt to redefine the American dream. My parents came to this country over 40 years ago in search of freedom and opportunity. The American dream is not about redistribution or government spending or debt. It's about freedom and opportunity. I think the voters want us to restore the American dream for our children and grandchildren.
You made some headlines a couple years back calling the GOP the stupid party. Is it still the stupid party?
Well, look, I think we've gotten better, but I think the GOP, to earn the right to be a governing party, we can't just be the party of no. We have to be a party of solutions. Not only repeal, but also replace Obamacare. We need to offer detailed plans for energy independence, manufacturing renaissance, school choice, where the dollars follow the child, a stronger foreign policy where our friends trust us, our enemies respect and fear us, where we invest in our military. We need to be a party of solutions. We need to be a party consistent with our conservative principles. We don't need to be a second liberal party, but we need to be more than just the party of no. I think we're making progress. We've still got some more work to do, especially in Washington, D.C.
Finally, let me ask you a question about gay marriage. Louisiana, one of only 14 states now where gay marriages cannot take place. As everyone knows, the Supreme Court is set to decide this by June. If the Supreme Court rules that gay marriages must be legal, what's your response to that? You've had some Republican candidates like Jeb Bush, Scott Walker suggest that when the courts speak, the matter is settled. Mike Huckabee says no, state legislatures and governors ought to resist. Where do you stand?
Well, look, I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. My faith teaches me that. My Christian faith teaches me that. I'm not for discrimination against anybody. I know that many politicians are evolving, so-called evolving on this issue based on the polls. I don't change my views based on the polls. I am proud that in Louisiana, we define marriages between a man and a woman. If the Supreme Court were to throw out our law, our constitutional amendment, I hope they wouldn't do that. If they were to do that, I certainly support Ted Cruz and others that are talking about making an amendment in the Congress in D.C., a constitutional amendment, to allow states to continue to define marriage. I think it should be between a man and a woman.
Governor Jindal, thanks very much for your time this morning.